All 49 brawlers, 5 different obstacle courses, but there can only be one winner in Brawl Wars. I made a massive bracket, randomized the brawlers' starting positions, and then made the brawlers face off against each other. If you lose, you go home, and if you win, you move on to the next round. And as for the rules, well, there are no rules. Okay, well, except you can't kill each other. And you can't cross the water. Okay, and you have to open the boxes before moving on. But besides that, no rules. Let the challenge begin. We're going to take this one bracket at a time. So starting off in the qualifiers in bracket number 1, our first matchup of the day is Penny versus Pam. Both of these brawlers are good at clearing skulls, and they have the same foot speed, but Penny is able to demolish those boxes with her splash and then use her mortar and gadget to blow open the wall, which easily gives her the victory. Squeak versus Brock. Now right out of the gate, Squeak pulls a dirty trick and slows Brock using his super and star power. But then it all falls apart when they get to the boxes and the walls as Brock destroys everything in his path. He then throws in a little BM to add insult to injury before moving on to the next round. Poco versus Leon. Straight away, Leon uses his smoke trails to get an early lead on Poco, but then slows down when they get to the boxes. Leon struggles while Poco is able to hit all the boxes at once, clearing them first and moving into the next round. Serge versus Shelley. Now Serge uses his initial super that all brawlers start with to rank up and get that extra movement speed. But with an extra shot, he's able to build up that super and use it on the boxes. However, Shelley, she pulls out her trump card and blasts not only the boxes, but also the wall in one shot, giving her just the edge she needs to narrowly take home a victory. Buzz versus Barley. While neither of these brawlers can break walls, Buzz has that life buoy to pull himself to an early lead. On the other side, Barley uses his super to clear a ton of skulls. Now both of these brawlers get through the boxes, no problem. However, Buzz has to wait on the spikes, and Barley looks to have a slight edge before Buzz pulls out the secret weapon, pulling himself across the line and moving into the next round. Now we've already seen some great matches, but there are some crazy ones coming up. Let me know in the comments down below who you think is going to win, and if you like this content, be sure to subscribe for future videos. Now moving into the next round, we have a brand new map where our first contenders, Penny and Colette, will face off. This map has a lot more skulls to clear and 2 walls to get around. While Penny makes a slight misstep with some skulls, once she makes it to the boxes, she chews through them and the first wall, inadvertently helping Colette open up those boxes in the process. But even with lending her firepower to the enemy's boxes, she easily wins this round. Brock versus Poco. Now Brock gets hung up on the spikes within the first few seconds, and it got worse when he got to the boxes as Poco was able to splash them all. But Rocket Rain combined with Rocket Laces breaks one wall and then jumps over a second one and on to face Penny in the next round. Shelley versus Frank. Now there's no love lost between these two brawlers, and each wants to show their dominance. They both get off to a good start, and while Frank has a bit of trouble clearing the skulls as fast as Shelley, he's able to clear the boxes while breaking down a wall to catch back up. Going into the last turn, they were about as close as you could get, but thanks to a gadget by Shelley and some unfortunate spikes for Frank, Shelley once again shows her dominance over the big man and sends him packing. Buzz versus Carl. 2 strong performers here, although neither can break walls. Going into the skulls, Carl activates that super quickly to get the lead, but Buzz uses not 1 but 2 supers to try and close the gap. However, Carl rips open the boxes with the help of that wall and is off. In desperation, Buzz tries to use that last gadget, but even if it would have landed, there was no match for the Surfer Carl, who rides a wave into the next round to face off against Shelley. A new round and a new map come into play just in time for these 2 hard hitters to face off. Brock versus Penny. Now both of these brawlers have been doing incredibly well, but to start off this round, Brock uses that rocket fuel to break down the first wall, while Penny does the same with her mortar, knocking back Brock in the process. However, Brock unleashes his super on those boxes as Penny simply splashes them into oblivion. Going around the turn, he preemptively blasts the wall, but then has to wait a moment for his gadget to be usable once again. Even with that delay though, not having to run around the walls is enough to have Brock riding that rocket all the way to the finish line and Penny back to swabbing the deck. Shelley versus Carl. Shelley shows why she's gotten this far and immediately blows down the first wall while Carl makes his way through the skulls. Not wasting any time though, Carl unleashes that super on the boxes and overtakes Shelley. A couple gadgets later, he pulls out to a huge lead, one that he will not lose as he heads towards the finish line and onto the quarterfinals to face Brock. Now with the next map having multiple boxes to break through and even more walls, the competition will need to be better than ever. Our first battle to see who will make it to the semifinals is between Brock versus Carl. Brock starts off with his first rocket fuel and then opens the wall as he gets to work on the boxes. Carl, however, makes quick work of them and the skulls as he supers around the wall. Even with the multiple walls Brock breaks, Carl and his superior movement speed and box opening ability is able to edge out Brock to get the victory. That means Carl is the champion of Bracket 1 and will move to the semifinals against the winner of our next bracket. Moving down to bracket number 2, we start off with two unlikely competitors, Griff versus Dynamite. Even though the newest brawler Griff isn't out yet, I recreated the map in the developer's build and tested these brawlers. And while Griff did pretty darn well using his gadget to bust down the wall, Dynamite just hopped right over it and on to the next round with a very convincing win. Max versus Lou. Smooth Lou attempts to freeze Max in her tracks with his shots at the start, but when that doesn't work, he uses his super effectively to freeze Max, giving Lou a good lead. However, for both of these brawlers, the boxes prove to be the biggest downfall, and Max edges out Lou and then zips around the corner to secure an easy win. Mortis versus Mr. P. The creature of the night pulls away to a big lead in the start, but then struggles clearing the skulls. Once he gets to the boxes and pops that gadget to break them open faster, it's all downhill from there as Mr. P and his porter friends can only watch as Mortis runs away with the first round. Nita versus Nani. Nani decides to play a little golf at the start and gets a huge lead. However, the boxes turn that hole-in-one into a bogey as she struggles. However, Nita pierces all of the boxes at once, opening them up and cruises to an easy victory. Moving forward to the next round, we have our first matchup with Rico versus Mike. We see Rico's first appearance in this tournament, and he has a few tricks up his sleeve versus the crafty Dynamite. Utilizing that robo-retreat star power, he is able to quickly move through the skulls and smashes those boxes with his super, giving him an early lead. But all that speed is no match for Dynamite and his wall hopping as Rico is forced to wait for the spikes as Dynamite just blasts himself over the walls and on to face the winner of our next matchup. Ruffs versus Max. Now Max has the speed in this matchup, but Ruff is able to break down one of the walls with his air superiority star power. However, they both meet their match when it comes to the power cube boxes. Max is able to open them up just barely quicker, and with the help of a couple gadgets, she narrowly edges out Colonel Ruffs and moves on. Ems versus Mortis. Now at the start, we see Ems popping that super to slow down Mortis, but that slow is the least of his worries as he had problems with skulls on the last map, and this map, there are double the amount. His super does help him out, but finds himself way behind, and even with the sprint near the end, Ems is able to use her box shredding abilities to pull ahead and send her into the next round. Nita versus Edgar. In Edgar, we once again see a brawler who struggles with skulls, but he more than makes up for it with his damage and then aided by his super and a quick gadget to leap over the last remaining wall and onto the next round. Mike versus Max. We see speed versus hops in this match as Mike gets out to an early lead by blowing up that wall, and then he never looks back as he jumps over multiple walls, leaving Max way behind as he moves on to the quarterfinals. Ems versus Edgar. Now off the start, Ems hurts and helps Edgar by slowing him, but also breaking some skulls for him. He uses this opportunity to leap over the first wall, destroying the boxes and getting a big lead. Now, Ems can tear apart boxes, but she's no match for the speed and leaping power of Edgar as he thoroughly trounces her and moves on to the quarterfinals to meet Dynamite. Dynamite versus Edgar. The winner of this match will face off against Carl, the winner of bracket number 1. However, this map proves to be especially difficult for Edgar as he is unable to use his leaping ability to land on the skulls. And because of this, he has to painfully clear them while Dynamite smashes them. After clearing them, he can finally use that super once again to jump over a wall and make a sprint towards the finish, but it's too little, too late, and Mike hops his way over the wall and into the semifinals to meet Carl. Now with 2 finalists already decided, it's time to move on to bracket number 3, where our first round looks to be a tough one. Rosa versus Tick. David versus Goliath in this matchup, and Tick shows a big weakness when his shots fail to open up the skulls quickly, but he more than makes up for it by shredding the boxes. And then, in a huge turn of events, Tick uses his super to knock back Rosa. Even though Rosa has a slightly faster speed than Tick, he is able to narrowly edge out the boxing botanist for an unlikely victory in round 1 where David toppled Goliath. 8-Bit versus Amber. In a very one-sided affair, 8-Bit comes out of the gate slow. And it doesn't get much better for him, as by the time he reaches the boxes, Amber has already cleared them and started the sprint towards the finish line. And in the end, fire and speed destroy a walking arcade game. Jesse versus Bo. Now, out of the gate, these two brawlers are neck and neck. However, Scrappy decides that boxes are of no interest to him, and Bo uses his tripwire to blow up one wall in his path, and he proves that he is indeed as strong as the mountains, and strolls into the next round. Spike versus Sprout. Sprout shows his true colors as the ultimate troll brawler in this challenge and creates massive walls in front of Spike, not once, not twice, but 3 times as he rolls his way to the finish line. Primo versus Tick. Now, last time we saw Tick get crafty and use his super to knock Rosa out of the first round, but this time he is facing a mountain of a man in El Primo. Near the start, when Tick is stuck on the skulls, El Primo drops an asteroid on his head just for fun before making his way through the skulls, smashing the boxes, and then clearing not 1 but 2 walls in a single jump, showing why he may be a finals contender in this tournament. Amber versus Colt. Now, these two brawlers are both speedy and powerful, and they get through the skulls and to the boxes without much issue. However, Colt gets double duty out of that super by blasting the boxes as well as the next wall, and then uses his silver bullet to break down the final remaining wall and sail over the finish line, leaving Amber behind. Gene versus Bo. Now, Gene makes his first appearance in style by sporting that evil skin, and he proves it right away as he pulls Bo to his side, which forces him to double back to get to his own lane. Although Gene clears all the skulls with ease and is way in front of Bo, this is where it all falls apart as he struggles to open the boxes. Bo catches up, breaks open a wall, and crosses the finish line about the same time Gene finally gets his last box open. Sprout versus Daryl. This time, the trickster Sprout doesn't have much room to place a wall as it can't be placed on the speed tile, so he holds on to it while Daryl rolls forward, using not 1 but 2 supers to get to the boxes first. However, Sprout sees his opportunity to block Daryl's path and he grabs it, which proves to be just enough to slow Daryl long enough for him to get around the walls first and across the finish line. Colt versus El Primo. The two titans face off here, and straight away, Primo shows his strength by leaping past the bones, smashing the first wall, and getting to work on the boxes. After Colt blasts down the wall, getting extra value from that super, Primo plays a dirty trick and suplexes him away, but that doesn't do much to stop Colt as he blasts through the 3 remaining walls and finishes way in front of El Primo. Bo versus Sprout. Sprout continues his trickster ways and employs an early wall, but doesn't see Bo launch his mines, and when he places a second wall, Bo merely activates his tripwire and moves past it, making it a very tight race. Going into the last turn, Sprout throws down a second wall that somehow manages to stop Bo, and then one final wall just to rub it in before moving on to the next round. Colt versus Sprout. Sprout wastes no time throwing down a wall, but then releases it just a second too early before Colt has to waste a gadget. He does, however, land a second wall, forcing that silver bullet. Colt then gets hung up on 2 skulls while Sprout makes a last Hail Mary wall attempt, and it falls just short, leaving Colt to run free, breaking open all the walls with his other gadgets while Sprout struggles with the skulls. This gives Colt the big lead and secures his spot in the semifinals against the winner of our last bracket. Now, heading into our final bracket, the first 2 brawlers couldn't be any more different. Piper versus Bull. Now, Piper has an amazing range and even wall-breaking capabilities, but when it comes to opening boxes, she fails miserably. In the midst of her struggles, Bull charges through the wall and onto the next round. Belle versus Tara. Belle gets out early before the race and lays down a gadget just to slow Tara down, and it gives her a head start on those boxes, but Tara blasts through them and the wall to leave Belle in the dust while she moves on to face Gail in the next round. Stu versus Byron. A big favorite here is Stu with his speed and super, and he gets out of the gate and leaves Byron far behind, but in a turn of events, Byron uses not only his star power to pierce all the boxes, but also his super, which allows him to break them all open and leaves Stu with a flat tire headed back to the garage. Sandy versus B. While Sandy has no way to combat the double slows from B in the beginning, what he does have is the ability to hit all the boxes at once. He also has a bit of a mean streak because he taunts B before moving along to take a nap before he faces off against BB in the next round. Bull versus Jackie. In the fight against these two heavyweights, they both come out of the blocks cleanly, and then Jackie tries to slow Bull down with her super, but to no avail. They both make their way through the skulls, and Jackie clears the boxes first, but then Bull goes through both walls and onto the spring trap and into the next round. Tara versus Gail. Now, Gail may be old, but he's got some utility and he ain't afraid to use it. He starts off by slowing Tara down enough to give himself a slight lead. Through the skulls and the boxes, he has a slim lead, but then Tara rips open the boxes, breaks the wall, and takes off. And even with Gail's jump pad, it's too little too late as Tara and her clones easily win this match. Crow versus Byron. Poison versus poison. Crow starts off this matchup by slowing Byron down and leaving him struggling over the spike, and then gets him with a second slow before making his way through the skulls and to the boxes. However, once Byron rounds the corner, he is able to open those boxes much faster than Crow and gets out to a big lead. Crow then uses his super to clear one wall and then his superior speed to barely edge out Byron across the finish line. Sandy versus BB. Now, Mr. Bat showed up to play as they launch off the starting line and into the skulls. Sandy, of course, has no problem clearing them while BB struggles. However, that bubble and her bat clear the boxes and then use her power and speed to run over the spikes. At the last turn, they are neck and neck, but that extra speed plus that perfectly timed spikes allow BB to pull ahead and win this round. Bull versus Tara. Now, surprisingly, Bull grew 2 brain cells since his last match, and he uses that intellect to activate his Berserker star power, which, after bulldozing the skulls and the wall to get to those boxes, is able to open them much quicker, which gives him an early lead. Tara finally makes it all the way around, where Bull even clears some skulls for her en route to a win and a ticket to the next round. Crow versus BB. Now, despite his troubles opening boxes, Crow has managed to make it thus far. BB, however, came to play. While Crow leaps over the first wall and slows BB in the process, she makes up for it with a great bubble, clearing the skulls and then opens the boxes before Crow, and from there, we see speed on both sides, but BB is able to just barely edge out the win against Crow and move on to the next round to face Bull. Bull versus BB. These two tanks have laid waste to all that oppose them, but there can only be one victor, and here they both get out of the gate strong. However, BB being able to open all the boxes faster and then throwing a great super to clear those skulls gives her the early lead. Bull, however, hangs on to that super for just the right time to smash through 2 walls and get to the final boxes where, with the help of his star power, opens them just in time to give him the narrow victory and a pass to the final 4 to face off against Colt. So now there are only 4 brawlers left. 3 matches to decide who will take home the title. And to take things up a notch, we will head into our final map where we will see Carl and Dynamite face off for the chance to head to the championship. Carl versus Dynamite. Dynamite is feeling the pressure right off the top and doesn't commit to jumping over that second wall and instead opts to blow it up. Carl is forced to go around the walls, but he uses his super to make short work of it. Dyna has further troubles clearing those skulls as well as some missed opportunity to do some damage to those boxes preemptively, letting Carl close the gap. But in the end, the power and the versatility overcome the missteps as Dynamite is able to edge out Carl and earn a spot in the championship round. Bull versus Colt. These two opponents have shown how good they are today, but this map seems like it was just made to stop Bull. And his charge falls 1 tile short of breaking open that last bit, which then forces him to go around. And on the other side, Colt just smashes the wall with his super, damaging the boxes in the process. A quick sprint and a couple springs traps later, and he finds himself well in front of Bull, who has to deal with spikes and gas along the way. Bull was possibly 1 tile away from winning, but in the end, Colt clears the last set of boxes and moves on to the final round where he will face Dynamite for the championship. And now it comes down to this. Only 2 competitors remain. Dynamite has fought his way from the very first play-in round, while Colt got a first round bye. However, both brawlers have knocked off every single other brawler in their path, and now only one stands between them and ultimate glory. Which brawler will emerge victorious? How fast will they be able to run this race? And who exactly will take home that fake championship trophy that doesn't exist? Let's find out. Colt versus Dynamite. Colt wastes no time in utilizing what has carried him thus far and sends a silver bullet to smash down the first wall. However, Dynamite pulls an ace from his sleeve and uses his satchel charge to stun Colt for just a second. Mike then wastes no time in hopping over the next wall and getting to work on those boxes. Colt breaks the boxes, but no wait, there's just one box left with 8 hit points, causing Colt to spin another shot using the last of his ammo, which then forces him to wait further to clear the path. However, Dynamite wastes no time in charging down his path off the jump pad where he looks ahead and clears the path before he ever gets there. On the other side, Colt perfectly clears his path and rushes towards the last set of boxes. Dynamite is able to throw over the wall and hit the boxes early while Colt uses his remaining silver bullet to get some extra damage. It's neck and neck, coming down to the very final jump. Dynamite tries one last satchel charge but mistimes it as they both reach the jump pads, and in a stunning photo finish, Mike edges Colt by a chef's hat to win the competition and walk away as the first ever champion of Brawl Wars. You know who else would be the champion? You, if you make sure that you subscribe to this channel, use code LEX, and always come back for more content I'll be bringing to you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, until next time, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace out. Which proves to be just enough to delay Daryl.